In 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Welcome to Game Within a Game podcast, featuring former pro basketball player, trainer, and coach, Marquis Navarre. The podcast that talks all things basketball, but also that game played by us all, that game called life. See, being great at this game ain't easy. It takes parents, coaches, mentors, guidance to navigate the ups and downs. On Game Within a Game, Marquis speaks to the athlete, the student, the player, the parent, the trainer, and fans alike. From connections to making connections, stories and more. Be sure to subscribe on YouTube, follow on Spotify and Instagram, and of course, comment, like, share. Game Within a Game podcast. Game Within a Game podcast. With the one and only Marquis Navarre. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thanks again for tuning in to Game Within a Game with the one and only Marquis Navarre. If you don't know, now you know.
Yeah. Happy Thursday.
AAU, youth basketball, the state of it all. Crawford kind of alluded to it in a post referring to him attending AAU games and youth games and stuff like that, and just kind of seeing the things that he disagreed with and that he didn't necessarily like the direction it was going. But in your opinion, youth basketball, the state of AAU, and the best way to approach the off season from high school sports or their normal team that they play on.
Yeah. There's a lot of talk around the evolution of how AAU basketball has the direction it's going. And for myself personally, I played AAU basketball in the early 2000s and probably like the end of the 90s, but early 2000s mainly. And there was a lot of things that were different in that time. And I think similar to like Jamal Crawford and a lot of these guys, because I'm closer to age with those guys and I can see the evolution and the change. And for me, like going back to like when I played, like the reasoning for playing, I think the reason why we were playing, like just the start of that was just different. I think the purpose of AAU basketball in general is just for you to be able to get more exposure and get more opportunities to play against better players in different areas. But again, just to get more exposure to college level or pro level. I feel like AAU is geared for college and pro players, and in my eyes, it's an investment into making it to that level. I feel like nowadays, because there's so many more clubs, like when I was playing, for the most part, like you would have to be invited to one of these teams, or you would have to get sponsored, get one of these sponsored teams to pick you up in order for you to go play in those big time tournaments or get those big time recognitions. Well, now there's so many more like clubs that people are just paying their way or like starting their own team because they can afford it. So now like there's so many more people who are showing up to these tournaments just because they're paying their way to be there. And so it used to be a thing where you had to earn, and now it's a thing where you can kind of really pay your way forward. And that is changing the dynamics a lot, where when you used to have to earn it, like the money wasn't that important for the coaches who were coaching it. And it also wasn't that the investment for the parent wasn't as big. So now that you see parents paying, like they're investing more and more into playing AAU. So they're paying more, like higher coaches fees. Like they show up to the games and then they got to pay for pay again. They got to pay to park. They got to pay to go in. And like I said, the most valuable resource that they're paying is their time. Like they're actually giving up all their time to be able to make this happen. And with that comes more like, more demand, or more like, if I'm paying for this, then I have more say so in this. And I think that's where the parents are, that's where the point where the parents are coming from. They see how much more money they're paying and how much they're investing. So they're looking for their return on their investment, and they want it a lot quicker, because they're paying more. So they want a quicker return for their buck. For me personally now, like, because I lived overseas as well, where there's no AAU basketball overseas. There's just only club basketball. And, overseas, it's just mainly like club teams, and they do a lot of practices, and they don't play many games throughout the week. They might play one game, maybe two, like maximum, but they're practicing like 3 to 4 times a week. So after living in Australia, like, it's funny because when you're living there, like the desire to play AAU is big because it's not there. But when you're here and you live in the States, it's like you're immersed in the AAU, and you can see like you can see all the pros and the cons of it. And you can see, well, it might not be, like I said, there is pros and there is cons. But yeah, for me personally, I think it's a situational thing. I think, again, a lot of players who are getting into AAU now, they might not even have college or pro aspirations, but they're still in the same environment, so they want to kind of be treated the same. So, but for me personally, I think, like, it depends on what your end goal is, and it also, it depends on your end goal, like, and it also depends on lost my train of thought.
Exactly who you trying to expose to. I know
Yeah.
you had mentioned earlier in the notes that it's like what is the purpose? What is the main purpose of this? And as you said, it might be geared towards players that are already developed athletically and somehow a little bit skillfully for the next level. So it's kind of like a showcase.
Yeah.
And those kids and parents that may can afford to just pay to put their kid in the right spot at the right time, that AAU might not be for them at a certain age or at any age. You know what I'm saying? The parents kind of, I guess what you're kind of saying is, like, it sounds like you're saying the onus is more on the parent and the player, not necessarily waiting on the return on your investment, but more so being wiser on your investment.
Yeah. I think it's just having like you said, what I meant to say is, like, it's where your end goal is, but also where age you are in your process, because at the end of the day, I think, they said what parents don't understand is, like, AAU is not the end all be all, but it is just a part of the development. So I think when parents and players, like, they put everything into just their AAU club and they think that's what's going to get them their ultimate results, I think that's where the disconnect happens. I think you have to view AAU as just a part of the development, but you still have to do all of the other things to allow you to be successful at AAU. Now mostly every kid has a personal trainer. Every kid's like starting to lift weights now. There's mental coaches, there's nutrition, there's all these other factors. And, like, you can't just go to your AAU team and then ignore those other factors. All right. Because, again, the purpose of AAU is to get exposure, to get a chance to earn a college scholarship. Now, a college scholarship might cost about 80 to 100 grand per year. So in the AAU, like you might be paying 10 grand for your spring and your summer, like every year. So you're investing 10 grand with a chance of like trying to get 80 to 100 grand back in return. But again, you still have to do a little bit more investing outside of that 10 grand to get to increase your chances to be able to get to that 80 to 100 grand, because there's so many different departments that you have to work on in your development.
I just talked about it in pre-show notes, and I saw the video as well of Steph Curry's dad talking about how he took his kids out of AAU in order to kind of focus more on the fundamentals and build that foundation. Do you think that is a greater approach for kids that might not necessarily have that athleticism that they should just explode and be out there and, yo, we'll figure it out later because you're just a freak of nature? You think that approach to taking them out and focusing on the foundation, focusing on the fundamentals, focusing on how to properly play basketball and just learning the game is better than just throwing that kid and having him learn pretty much how to swim by just being thrown in the water?
Yeah, no, 100%. I do believe that you need to, like, again, it's age appropriate. So I believe like age and stage, so skill level and your age. But for me, I think AAU, like, I think when you like 10th grade and above is when you're playing AAU to actually get that exposure for colleges and to try to get signed and to try to achieve those type of things. But I feel like 9th grade and below, like the main focus needs to be developing. And I do believe you develop better by having more training and development with skills trainers, group training, camps, and things like that over just learning through games, just playing games. I do think that the trainer does have to, like, if you're with a good trainer who actually implements game style concepts and game style situation into your personal training, then that's going to go longer and better for your development than just playing games. Because in games you don't really get a time to really stop and work on the things that you're doing wrong. Like the games just keeps going, and the difference between like having an hour session where you're running game concepts, shooting game shots and things like that, you can possibly shoot, 200, 300, 400 shots in that time period. Now, if you substitute that and you spend a whole day in the gym playing in a tournament and say you play 2 to 3 games in that tournament, like each game is roughly, we'll just round it up to about an hour. And again, you might only shoot 5 shots one game. You might shoot 10 shots the next game at most, and you might shoot, another 5 shots. So, and that total of 3 games, you have only shot the ball like, 15 to 20 times, opposed to having that hour session where you're running through that same game concept, and you might get so many more shots at doing it. And then you also get the coach that can stop and make those corrections, because I think a big problem with the AAU now is that a lot of the coaches are not teaching any concepts, and a lot of AAU teams are not even practicing. They're only doing games. So again, like the player's not being taught how to play the game at all. They're just playing games. And again, it's like if I give you like a car, but you never took a driver's license test, or you never got your permit, and I'm just like, just get onto the road, just start driving, figure it out. You're gonna miss on a lot of the nuances and just like normal things when it comes to driving, And that's the same with basketball. Like you gotta really you gotta learn the basics first. You gotta understand and build a foundation first before you can just be thrown into the fire or just thrown into the deep end.
Most definitely. Yeah, man, times kind of allude to that. Everybody's a part of the staff now. It's like the parents, the trainer, if you have a trainer, the coach, everybody it's like all hands on deck in order to make sure the kid actually gets what he wants, or playing in games turns into the replacement for playing outside, it seems like. I just need to get you in games, when before it was just you played outside, you had that separation of playing with your friends, pick up ball and all that.
Yeah.
And then whatever organized basketball, what they used to call it. I never played organized. People used to say, I play street ball, but I never
Yeah.
played organized. People would always say that and things like that. Because organized basketball was, I had to sign up. I had to do this. Now, everybody signs up rather than everybody being outside and only a few signing up. So, times definitely have changed.
Yeah, and as you said, like, just playing outside and playing that pickup ball, like, that was a learning ground as well. It was learning because, again, like where I play pickup, it was like, for one, you had to like get on the court first. Like you had to earn your way onto the court to even pick up. It wasn't like a free for all, like just because you showed up, everyone gets a fair pick. It's actually like you show up and we're only going to pick the dudes that can actually win, because and pick up, that winning controls how much you play. Like if you're sitting on the sideline, because you lost, like no one wants to sit on the sideline and be waiting and pick up. So it starts creating that mentality of like, I have to earn my way onto the court, but also like winning is important. So like in a pickup game, like I said, it used to like, that's where you learn like defensive concepts and defense accountability, because it's like nobody was going to pick you on a pickup game if you didn't know how to defend, because you're going to have us sitting on the sideline. Now, again, now you see like without that pickup component and we're just playing AAU ball, and again, there's not really defensive concepts being taught like very like in AAU. It's just like a showcase similar to like the All-Star game, where it's like not playing, like we're not playing defensively and trying to like challenge each other. We're just really trying to wait till we get the ball and see how fast and see what threes we can shoot or things like that. So again, that's hurting players' development, because they spend all spring and summer playing games, and then they'll start going into their high school season during the summertime and then playing like through the fall and stuff like that. And, once the season comes, the coach, like your high school coach, he wants to win, and he's going to start with defense most likely. And most kids are like, man, I haven't played defense. Like I've been programmed to take defense off and not be held accountable on defense, for example. So then like, again, then you're just trying to break all these habits that have built from them just playing and not being held accountable for that. And now you're trying to force them to do it. And like I said, it's just a development killer.
Yeah, reps, progress, wins, and then now kids kind of just like, how can I increase my probability to win? Let's just play as much as possible, and if I win, I win, but at least I'm moving towards it. It's like you said, I like that. There's no intensity or sense of urgency to win, because you didn't have to earn your way. You didn't have to figure out what your role was and stuff like that. But yes, sir, process. There is value in the process to all the kids out there. Never forget, the process is what's going to get you that progress and get you to that destination. Thanks again for listening to Game Within a Game. This podcast is sponsored by Marquis Basketball. Visit Marquis Basketball on Instagram at Marquis Basketball or call 760-213-4936. If you're a basketball player that wants to improve your game and take it to the next level, or a parent seeking to have your child learn the game the right way, Marquis Basketball is the place to be. The place to grow, the place where basketball dreams become a reality. Message Marquis on Instagram at Marquis Basketball or call Marquis at 760-213-4936. Marquis Basketball, coaching and training for the next generation. There's been a lot of talk lately between European basketball and the NBA, development in Europe ball and other countries, and how we develop our players here. Your thoughts on the comparisons, the pros, the cons of basketball overseas and basketball in the States?
Um, I think it's very, again, like, I think it's interesting because, again, I've been in a lot of these different countries, and like every country has a different approach in their own way. So, like, America has its approach to development. I've been to China and I've seen like their approach. Been to Italy and like obviously Australia. And again, AU is it's an American thing, but there's um there's an argument that's saying that like because of we're playing so many games, that's what kind of makes American players like athletic the way they are. And that's the point of that's one of the point of difference that America hangs its hat on as far as their strengths compared to other countries, like being bigger, stronger, faster than the other players or the other countries. Um, so again, in the AU style, like development, it's about like putting the athlete and just letting them run and letting the game just him getting better just by being on the court. Now, with the other countries, like I said, like Australia and Europe and China, where being athletic is not the main thing. Like they're not producing the same type of athletes. So what their development, it's more so like teaching the fundamentals and teaching step by step to every single player because we don't have the athletes, we don't have the John Morant type players where you can say, well, his ability is just going to go by him. Um, so, like the question is like, would you rather have like a Josh Giddey type player or like, John Morant, for example? It's like these two players get the job done, but one is like getting by because he's just supremely like more athletic. Yes, he's skilled, but his athleticism is what sets him apart. And like I said, in the case of Josh Giddey, where he's an athlete too, he's big, he has good size, but again, his athleticism are not going to blow guys out of the water. So he has to outskill people. But for me, because I like the size I was, being a small guy, like growing up, like playing this big man game, like I was always like developing, doing like skill sessions. And like I said, from an early age, like doing all of the boring stuff that, it seemed boring at the time, but it actually was setting a foundation and it was a fundamental base that I can build off of. Similar to like Kobe when he talks about like when he grew up in Italy, like the way they taught the game there, because they're not athletic. And like I said, just like I wasn't a big and strong, like the only way I was going to survive and have success in the game was really learning how to play the game. And instead of just playing the game, I had to understand how the game worked and how to be able to read the game and understand it, and also be able to just use that knowledge so I can anticipate things and to be proactive on the court. So for me personally, I feel like there needs to be, again, it's all about age and stage. But again, if we're talking about developing a younger player who's before like 10th, 11th, 12th grade, he definitely needs to be on the side of developing with more practice and skill development sessions and small group stuff where they're being taught the game, when they're taught the reads, when they're taught the wins, the whys, and the hows, like how to do this. Like I think, again, there's a emphasis on just how to do things, but I think the difference between like the overseas approach is a lot more focused on the wins to do this and why we're doing this. So like when when players are just playing that up and down the court in game situations, they don't get to really take time and understand the whys and when, you know. So I believe like having more of a, like I said, a skill base or skill development based training instead of playing games on an early age is definitely more important. But again, once you start getting to that 10th, 11th, 12th grade, like you still have to have that component of development. But again, now you're stepping into the space where you have to start proving yourself and like proving your skill set versus the competition. So that's when like playing more games is actually really more like important, because it's now you're in the stage where the coaches will start offering scholarships and start giving you these, like they'll start presenting these things to you. And that's when the competition really starts. Like that's when you're really standing against that other dude on the other side and saying like, who's going to get this scholarship, me or you? So yeah, once you get into that older age, you definitely have to have some AAU so that you can go prove your value. Are you a middle school player that's trying to take your game to the next level? Then make sure you come join us on Saturday mornings from 8 a.m. to 9:30 a.m. where we run our middle school group skill development sessions. We'll be working on our ball handling with both hands, our footwork, and finishing around the rim with both hands, and also our shooting ability. Last but not least, we'll be working on decision making, because if you want to be a great player, you have to make it the right decisions at the right time. Come join us on Saturday mornings, 8 a.m. to 9:30 a.m., El Camino High School for our middle school skill development program, 8 o'clock at El Camino High School. If you're trying to get better, we'll see you there.
Preparation, like the emphasis on preparation, and Gilbert Arenas talks about how European basketball is kind of messing up the defense in the NBA, and it's still all about scoring, and these dudes are ruining. But like you said, they're non-athletic, highly skilled. People like Luka and Joker can barely jump off the ground, but they killing all these super athletic, quick dudes because with the skill and the IQ. So talk about keeping the emphasis on defense as American players, but also really focusing on that development and skill in order to kind of enhance your athleticism rather than hinder it.
Yeah, because again, I think, if you can't read the game and understand the game, then again, your athleticism can actually be a detriment to you. You know, it's like, again, like back to my car reference, like if you don't know how to drive, but I give you like a Lamborghini to drive, like you most likely are going to crash it or go out of control or not be able to control that. So again, like the actual like fundamental way allows you to like, again, maximize the athleticism you have, but also let you, it also lets you like use other players' athleticism against them. Because if I have someone who's more athletic than me, but he doesn't have the foundation, like this fundamental base and the IQ that I have, I'm going to get him to use his athleticism against him. Like I'm going to make him run fast to a spot, and I'm knowing that I'm sending him to that spot. Like I can manipulate him and like, okay, I'm going to make you run fast there because you want to run fast. And then I'm going to change direction. And then I'm going to get to the spot that I want to. Or if you're just a high jumper, like every time I go to the basket, you're just jumping. So I'm just going to go to the basket and I'm going to shot fake because I know you're going to jump. Again, that's just me using my basketball IQ to take advantage of your athleticism. So again, I think, you have to have, you have to be able to have that understanding and that IQ. And because if you're just an athlete, it's not going to work.
Indeed. And you mentioned how you had to do all the work that nobody else wanted to do in order to compete at the level you wanted to compete at, being a smaller guard, having to build your way up. But how does that help you with your coaching, with knowing that a lot of these kids are not doing the work that they need to do and not doing the boring stuff, as you said, and it happens a lot. Like look at like Navy SEAL stories and stuff like that, and you see that they say the person that comes in all cock diesel, huge, looks like they're gonna kill everybody, and they just gonna be just that prototype warrior, right? And then you got the little scrawny nerd, and the scrawny nerd is the one that actually ends up making it through the end, and the big swole muscular dude is the one that rang the bell. And it's like there's something different that the dude that doesn't have all the natural abilities and the natural height and all that stuff, that they do different than the person that has all the gifts. So just how does that help you with your coaching, knowing that in the back of your mind that there's a lot of work that you can do that nobody else is doing that will give you a foot above the next person?
I mean, it could help, but also, I mean, sometimes it's at a disadvantage because, again, majority of the players are not wanting to do the extra work. So, but when you have a case where there is a kid who he has the drive and he is like putting the time and the effort, you can, if they're consistent with just putting in that extra work and you just stay on them and you stress those fundamentals, they will see their development change, like within within like a window of time, like a very short window of time, if they really just consistently focus on that. And once you're able to point that out, then that's what helps me, because it's like, okay, I can show you, hey, look how you improved, see the progress. Once you can identify the progress and you can show a player that they are progressing, then that's all the fuel you need as a coach, because you want to just keep showing them that picture. Like, look at the progress, like, and you can help them not get caught up in the small picture, like thinking about the things they don't have. They're like, oh, coach, but I can't dunk and I can't do this. But when you can just give them examples of their progress and say, well, look, you are going by this guy who's faster, or you are finishing over the big guys when you get in the paint and things like that. So being able to understand, like I said, like when I was at a certain age, that because there was kids that more athletic than me and I wasn't, like it took time for me to get better than certain kids, like with the fundamentals. But yeah, because I went through that and I had guys that I was like, man, I should be able to beat this guy. I can dribble better than him. I can shoot. But at a certain age, when I was younger, it's like, he's still quicker to the ball, but again, like, I understand the process, that's kind of what it is. Like, I do understand the process. So I can just keep encouraging the kid to let them know, like, hey, he might be beating you now, but if you still stick with these fundamentals, then in 3 months' time to 6 months' time, I guarantee you'll pass him up.
Yeah. Oh, it's time for GWAG Tip of the Week with former pro basketball player, now trainer and coach, Marquis Navarre. Now, some tips, they're for the game. And some tips, they're for the game within the game. Yet all tips seek to adjust that mind frame. So let's get it. GWAG Tip of the Week.
All right, for this week's Tip of the Week, I'm going to talk about how you can prepare yourself for a game when you're dealing with pre-game nerves. Like, having nerves before a game, like, it can either fuel you to the right direction or it can kind of cripple you. And but for me, I think the first thing you need to do is you need to really realize that it's actually, like, nerves are a good thing. Once you start really thinking that I'm nervous because I care, I'm nervous because I really want to do well, I'm nervous because this means something to me, and understanding that that's actually a good thing. And so just reframing the way that you look at nerves and you think about if they're positive or negative, first things first, think of them as a positive thing, and that they're going to help you and you can use them as fuel. to channel yourself into the game. But my nervous, the way I deal with nerves, it starts before the night before the game. All right. You have to really prepare yourself mentally and physically for the game before the game starts. And I start that, like I said, the night before the game with my meal that I eat at night, and making sure I got the right sleep and getting the right hydration. Now, this is like something that a lot of players overlook, but having your body properly fueled and rested is going to help you deal with those nerves, because you're going to feel more prepared. The more prepared that you feel, the less that the nerves are going to go in the other direction, and they're actually going to move in the way that you're moving. So again, making sure you even prepare your body with the right fuel is so important. The next thing is to prepare yourself mentally. So again, the night before the game, I might do some visualization before, I actually picture myself walking into the gym, walking into the arena that I'm playing in, and visualize myself walking in there with confidence, being cool, calm, and collected amongst the whole crowd, amongst the noise. And doing that visualization, like what I'm going to look like walking in, but then also visualizing the things that I'm nervous about in the game, like the things that I feel like the mistakes I might make. I'm actually visualizing those things that could happen, and I'm actually seeing myself doing it successfully. And also picturing myself, if I don't do it successfully, how am I actually going to respond to mistakes, because the game's not perfect. So doing your visualization the night before the game is going to help you with those nerves. The next thing is creating routines. All right. For me, again, it's about having a physical, a mental, and like a skill set routine. So for me, the way I mentally get ready and get my nerves out of the way is I have a playlist that I put on. So whatever music I'm listening to, like I'm trying to absorb that energy from the music. So for me, I'm going some Tupac, some Kendrick Lamar, some Nipsey, something along those lines where I can just grab their energy and try to grab some confidence from them and use that as fuel for my game. The next routine, again, I'll have like a pre-game stretch, and like where I actually warm my body up and have my body ready for the game. I think, again, a lot of the nerves come from when you're not ready and you're not prepared. So you see so many kids and players walk into a gym and they're just sitting around until the warm-ups happen. But if you go to an NBA game, you can get there 2 hours before the game. You see Steph is on the court doing his 2-ball dribbling, going through his shooting routine. You see all the great players, they show up before the game and they have a routine. So practice, have a routine, have a pre-game routine that is separate from what you do with your team and the layup lines and your dynamic warm-ups. Have your own personal routine before you join the team before the game. And the last tip is once the game starts, again, you ever get like punched in the mouth and then all of a sudden you wake up and you're like, okay, I'm not thinking anymore. I'm just doing. So you have to get that. You have to do that like when you insert yourself in the game. Now, rather than waiting for you to get punched in the mouth, within the first play or two within the game, you have to go essentially like punch someone else in the mouth or do something like just extremely hard so that, like, successful or not, you're just going to go as hard as you can. And that's going to help get the nerves out of the way. So
GWAG. Marquis Reacts. Now this is where we view videos around the game of basketball and Marquis gives his take, opinion, story, or advice. If you would like Marquis to react to a video, email us at info@gamewithinthegamepodcast.com. That's info@gamewithinthegamepodcast.com. GWAG. Marquis. reacts.
Just look at this. So right here, as he goes, he notices a straight line angle, so just goes right at it. But then on this dribble, he avoids the back tap because he's aware. He just knows it's happening. Right there. So you saw Curry reach. His dribble avoided it. But then on that very same dribble, he didn't expose it to Clay and crosses over. Right? And then once he gets it in this hand, he sees Iguodala over here about to reach. You can see him. Dribbles under his hand without dribbling it too far while initiating contact to not lose his leverage because he has to fit between both of them without losing the ball. Then he dribbles it out there, avoids Clay's reach, and is aware enough to stay in bounce and gain leverage and push into Clay, and then knows to spin off tightly because even though he has the room to maybe do a wide spin, he doesn't even take that risk. Initiates the contact straight up off the glass. Like, that shit is high level awareness. Off the fucking charts.
Your thoughts on that assessment? And before you get into it, I think this is something we can also add to the show as well, but go ahead.
Yeah. Like for me, yeah, this is definitely high level. And this is what makes Kyrie and anyone who's a great guard or anyone who's a great ball handler and just playmaker, this is what they understand. Again, you only, again, it's like a car. Again, you have lanes, all right, and then the higher levels that you play in, those lanes get smaller and smaller and smaller. At the younger level, those lanes are big. You have big gaps in between. But again, as you go in higher levels, those lanes get smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller. And what Kyrie is great at, and like I said, most great ball handlers is like just staying in their lane and creating their lane. And like one of my favorite drills of all time is alley drill, where you just basically use the free throw line as boundaries and you just play one-on-one within those boundaries. And again, that teaches you to play in a lane. And like I said, when players first start this, or like beginner level players who are not very great ball handlers yet, they struggle playing in those lanes. They're like, Coach, can I just go use the whole court? You know, I want to dribble outside this line. I want to go way over here. I want to go over here. But again, once you get in a game situation, there's going to be 9 other bodies on the court. So understanding those driving lanes is important. Like, you won't have the whole court to be able to drive in a game. There will be help side defenders. There will be someone in the gap. There will be someone rotating. So, like I said, that drill is my favorite because it actually allows you and teaches you how to play in the lane, and that's what you need to do to be effective in a real game. Opposed to, like I said, some guys who are just playing like street ball type and just unlimited dribbles and things like that, where they don't really know how to use they don't know how to get in the lanes effectively. So then they're going to struggle in a real situation. But yeah, there was just so many nuances that he broke down in that. Like I said, there was one, just being in the lane, and then again, just like just understanding the gap defender. Like, where is that help defender? Understanding, like, is that defender going to rotate all the way and get in front of you? Or is he just going to put his arm in the way? Or is he going to stay with his man?
Yeah, that's dope.
2 for 11 and played 38 minutes. And this player got totally down on himself when he wasn't playing good. So 2 for 11 is not very good. So Billy walked in and he asked the player, how many shots did you miss last night? This was the next day. Player says 9. How long does it take for you to shoot a shot? Player was a little confused. He said about a second. How many minutes did you play? Player says 38. So let me get this straight. You allowed 9 seconds to affect the rest of the 37 minutes and 51 seconds you played.
Your thoughts on making miss and just that mind game there within the game?
I think this is one of the biggest hurdles that most players have to learn, is to not be affected by missed shots. And this is, again, it starts off early on. And like in your education of the game and when you're learning the game, because every time you get in the car after a game, like 99.9% of the time, the question is, how many points did you score? Then the next question is, did your team win? So you start to create that scoring and making shots is the most important part of the game, because that is the main question that everyone asks you after the game. But again, but the best shooters in the world, they don't take time, like they don't complain over spilt milk, Like if they make a shot, the key is like to be a great shooter is to have a short-term memory. Like every single shot, you have to clear your mind. Like I said, make or miss, but especially like after misses, because like you have to be able to learn from your misses and just know why you missed it. So a lot of people, they'll just miss and then they'll start telling themselves, oh man, that's a bad shot. And then they'll miss the second shot and then they'll say, oh, I'm just off today. And then they'll miss the third shot and then they'll say, I'm just in a shooting slump. And then every time they miss a shot, they'll just dig themselves in a deeper hole. And again, that's when you, like you said, you let 9 seconds affect like 30-something seconds, because you're just digging yourself in the hole based on how you're talking to yourself. And again, all great shooters, they're just pretty black and white with shooting. It's like, if I made it, like I said, why did I make this? Like, what did I do good? Like, was my feet, my balance, my follow through? And then vice versa. Like if they miss, it's like, okay, why did I miss? It's like, was my feet off? Did I didn't get enough power in my legs? Did I not get enough lift on my shot? Did I not hold my follow through? So again, understanding like that shooting, you shouldn't let a missed shot affect you, because again, it's gonna throw off your next shot. And again, but there's so many other skills in the game that that are required outside of shooting. So if you do miss a shot, like I said, most likely there's a rebounding opportunity right there. Like if you do miss a shot, that means now you're most likely got to transition back to defense and find your man and do all those other things. So although like shooting is important, there's a over exaggeration of that skill being more important than all the other skills. And again, if you focus on more like the full game, and you focus on defending the ball, passing the ball, rebounding the ball, then you will understand that shooting is just one of those skills as well. And you shouldn't let your shooting affect all your other skills.
Yes, sir. That game within the game. Your thoughts on closing out episode 11 and also the new premiere date for YouTube being Friday rather than Thursday. Just close out the show with some thoughts for the audience and what to look forward to.
Yeah, so our new release date will be on Thursday, 1 p.m. in Pacific time, and that will be 8 a.m. Australian time on a Friday morning. And just get something for my Australian people to like go into their work day on Friday mornings, but even into the weekend as they go into their basketball tournaments and things like that on the weekend. I know we talked about like AAU like this episode, and it's time, like this is the time where it starts. Again, I know we talked about like different pros and cons and things like that. Again, I just just encourage people to know where you're at in your development, and just know what you want to get out of it. So if your end goal is to make it to college or make it to a pro, make sure that your habits and everything align with that. Now, if you just want to play basketball and just have fun with it, then that's fine as well. Just show up, play as many games, have fun, and then go home after that. So just be aware of where you want to go, what it takes to get there, and what you have to do to get there. But I think it's this is the off season. This was always like my favorite part of the season as a player. Like I said, regardless if I was playing AAU or not, I was on the court by myself, with my friends, with my high school team and my club team, like AAU team. So there's more than one way to skin a cat. But the most important part is you just got to make sure you put in the work. And this is the time for that. Like, if you want to be successful next season, you have to do the work in the off season. And this is the time for that. And again, if any players looking to get some help on how to approach this off season, holla at me.
Thanks again for tuning in to Game Within a Game podcast. Be sure to click, comment, subscribe, and share at Game Within a Game podcast on Instagram, Spotify, YouTube. Game Within a Game podcast. Instagram, Spotify, YouTube. Click, comment, subscribe, and share. Game Within a Game with the one and only Marquis Navarre. Thanks for listening.